Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome back to the podcast. I realized while introing this episode that Farah should have introduced this episode. Because, no, just the context behind what we wanted to talk about today. The general fear of being seen and the fear of putting yourself out there, the fear of not dreaming big, but being seen to be dreaming big. I think there's loads of overlap with our culture and how our culture views success and like very like blatant success on other people. And I feel like there's so many things that I personally like battle with on a day-to-day basis that all come down to literally just being seen to be doing something rather than the actual act of doing it. So let's talk about it a bit more. Farah, what is your, like, do you have a general fear of being seen? And did you clock it as a fear of being seen before? And are you over that hump?
I do generally have a fear of being seen, yes, but did I clock it? No, I didn't know that that's what my issue was It's weird for me though as well because although I have that fear, I still do put myself out there quite a lot, or maybe more than the average person, at least in terms of like putting my face online and like posting my opinions on things. And
Yeah.
sometimes I am a little bit outspoken in that sense, but then a lot of the time I feel like there was a big barrier maybe I had to like overcome to get to that point. But then I feel like it also comes in waves. So there'll be points in time where I feel quite confident about myself, and then I feel confident in my values and like what I believe in and my goals and the things that I want to achieve. But then that fear does creep up on me, even now that I feel like I've got to a place where I am okay with being seen. Like, it's only very recently that I've realized that that was my problem, kind of still is my problem. Is that just perception, I guess, or feeling like you have eyes on you, feeling like you have people's thoughts like towards you, like whatever those thoughts are. It's just the idea of it sometimes is so unnerving, and it's so abstract as well because realistically you don't really know what people are thinking until they say it to your face. But it's almost like that anticipation of people thinking badly of you or thinking negatively of what you're doing. I feel like that is where my fear a lot of the time stems from, is the anticipation of like worrying about if they are thinking negatively. But then ultimately you don't actually know if that's the case a lot of the time. So I think that's what I've tried to use as my like reasoning for like trying to bat that feeling away, of realizing actually, but people could be thinking the opposite. People could be really like happy about what I'm doing and proud. And I try to focus on the positives a lot more. But then something that I've also been kind of juggling with in my own mind recently is the whole idea of nazar, which I feel like has suddenly become this like massive topic online as well. And the evil eye concept and people like wishing badly on you. And especially since I got married, the amount of comments I've received about people telling me that I need to keep it private and like I'm going to get nazar for like sharing the fact that I got married and like posting videos about it. And I get it because I do feel like at one point I was more, I believed in it more than I probably do now. Just because I 100% think that people can have ill intentions towards you. I definitely think that people can even like indirectly wish bad things on you just because they're envious, they're jealous. And when people have those negative feelings, it is an energy at the end of the day, and it can be directed towards you, whether they intentionally do it or not. But I struggle with the idea of, like, I believe in God. I believe that there is a higher power. So for me to think that a human just like me is capable of like changing the course of my life or making bad things happen in my life, when there's a whole other like higher power that actually I feel like is in control, that it just doesn't align. It just doesn't make sense. And I also don't understand in like culture as well. I don't know if it's a religious thing. I feel like it's definitely more cultural, the idea of the evil eye. And I feel like there's levels to it. Like, I definitely think it exists. I definitely think people can be jealous of you, like I said. But I just don't necessarily believe that that jealousy can change someone else's life. Like, I just don't understand that concept of, if you don't keep things private, and if you have to keep that fear of being seen, because if you don't, and if you do start sharing things, then your life is gonna go to shit, basically, which is what the whole idea of the evil eye is, I think.
I think it's also like people in our culture give a lot of importance to other people's opinions.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where that imbalance is, because the whole thing with nazar is, if something is known to someone else, then they have the power to ruin it, or they have the power to curse me, or they have the power to like take that good thing away.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it's all in the idea that that power doesn't lie with me, it lies with someone else. If it lies with someone else, therefore I can't give that power away by giving them the information about my life. So I think it's just like the idea of nazar can be belittled a little bit if you yourself build that, I don't know if it's a confidence in yourself, that even if someone else knows a detail about your life or knows this big event in your life, they can't do anything about it because it's yours, and it's yours to control. So it's like maybe like a mindset shift, but I definitely think it's like that, in that belief that you don't have any power over your life is what gets people really wound up about this thing in our culture, which I think it's such a sad like belief, in all honesty, because because so many people go through life thinking, like, keeping all their successes to themselves, keeping all these like good amazing things to themselves, thinking that other people are going to ruin it for them once they talk about it. So then you develop this culture, it's like inherent, like never celebrating yourself, never living life, never just like being in the moment of successful times and happy times, and just like soaking it all in with people that you love around you. There's always that belief of like, I can't share this because it's gonna get ruined the moment I share it.
Someone's gonna take it away from me.
Yeah. So it's quite, I do think that's quite a sad way to live, to be honest. But saying that, I'm not saying like judging our culture for living life like that, because I definitely took that that concept of nazar from my mom as well. She doesn't call it nazar, but she's very good at not sharing good things with the belief of like it'll get ruined the moment it leaves my lips. And I did that a lot as well. Like if something good happened to me, my instant like almost knee-jerk reaction was to be like, okay, I need to keep it to myself unless it's like written in like stone somewhere that it cannot be changed, and then I'll tell someone about it.
Oh, I'm like that now, thinking about it.
But then I think there's like probably a difference between like, I'm not going to share this amazing thing that's happened versus I'm not going to get ahead of myself with good things.
Yeah, I get you, because I definitely have the mindset of I won't share like what I'm doing, really. Actually, I think I've got a bit better at it. Like my mindset is different now. So I used to have that fear like you were talking about, like something is going to get ruined. Like I genuinely believe that if I talk about something while I'm doing it, it's going to get ruined and I won't get it, because other people will like interfere and do their juju on it. So I was like, juju. Do you know what I mean? Like put their negativity and, ruin it. So I was always so conscious. But again, I think it's because the culture, like we're taught like evil eye is real. Like if people know the good things that you're doing, like I'm sure there are things that happened to me while I was in school and stuff. Do you know what the struggle is? It's like, how do you even know that what happened to you was nazar? Like if physically you're affected by it, like people talk about physically being affected by nazar, like something bad happening to them. How do you know that's just not a life event that was going to occur regardless?
Well, that's the thing. It's like, if as soon as you give something thought, you give it power.
Yeah.
So if you think that people are cursing you and like physically harming you, you're going to believe that. Like that's going to be a fact of life. That's going to be a matter of fact thing to you. That's going to be the reasoning
for things happening to you. Whereas if you thought life is life and shit happens to everyone, when things happen, then you're going to react so much differently. You're not going to be trying to find out who's out to get you. You're just gonna like focus on the problem, solve it, move on with your life. And I feel like even if nazar existed, that's surely a more healthy way of approaching life in general.
Yeah. I think I completely agree, because actually what you've said there is, if you believe in nazar and if you live your life according to this belief that other people can take things away from you or harm you, you're basically absolving yourself of all responsibility over your life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're actually just like making it really easy for you to just never blame yourself. Not that you're always to blame, but to never look inward when things go wrong.
Mindset, though, isn't it? I think.
Yes, that's exactly it. It's like
They've done this
being
to
a
me.
victim, yeah, and always blaming the world for your wrongdoings. That is fine to do now and again, like it's fine to just be a little bit of a crybaby sometimes.
Go wrong and you can be
Yeah.
like, why me?
Yeah, but then if you're doing that all the time and you're never actually reflecting, I think that can be a bad thing, because then you're never actually just learning and improving on your own life.
Yeah, I agree. And you're not focused on, okay, what's the lesson that I could learn out of this situation, or how am I actually going to get out of this situation? You're more focused on, oh my gosh, somebody's cursed me and I can't share anything ever again. And this is why I can't like have good things in my life. And you do end up in that victim rut. And that's what you should always aim to like stay away from. Because once you get in that, it's so hard to get out of it, because then you're constantly going to see the bad in everything, and you're constantly going to be looking out for the bad things. And then what happens when you look for bad? You get more of it.
You get more bad, yeah. Yeah, and even if you connect that back down to like the fear of being seen, if you're constantly scared that other people can take things away from you, you are never going to put yourself out there. You're never going to make yourself be seen to do anything, because you're like protecting all your goals, your successes, your failures. And that also, I think, if you have a massive fear of being seen, it's actually very lonely. And this is also speaking from experience. When you're so scared to like expose parts of your life, whether it's like, if I look from the lens of content creation, like I've held back on so many of my own ideas because I'm scared of being seen to be someone who lives in like a messy household, or being seen to be someone who doesn't have their life together, even though I have this persona of like my life is together all the time. Like, those are elements of like fear of being seen that hold me back. But then I can also imagine that like your fear of being seen as someone going after their goals, or like going after something that nobody else is going after, that can really keep you just really lonely. Because like, how do you share that journey with someone else? How do you ask for help? How do you, when you have your little wins, like how do you celebrate that without just like sitting by yourself and never really speaking to anyone about it? I feel like that's quite sad.
Yeah, because I guess you're just waiting for that end point to then be able to share it. And at that point, it could be a very long road before you reach that stage. So during like the ups and downs to get through that journey, yeah, you are putting yourself in a position where you are going to be quite lonely. Although having said that, I do feel like maybe there's a difference between sharing the things with the people closest to you and having like, a close network of people that you do trust, and you bounce ideas off and you share your goals and ambitions with, and you have that support. But then it's like the wider community or people more publicly sharing stuff is maybe what people fear more. I guess it depends on the individual, because some people maybe don't have that supportive network to begin with, and then to not share publicly is gonna make you feel that loneliness. But I do feel like, yeah, there's maybe a difference between, because also when you talk about putting things online, it's like you don't even know who's kind of watching, and you don't know who's actually like looking at your content and what they feel about your content and things like that. And I guess there is a level of fear you could feel towards that. But do you know what? The people closest to you can also have the worst intentions for you. So having said that, like you never know either way. So the best thing you can do is just make sure you're mentally strong and you're sure of yourself, and you have a belief system that is, like works in your favor. Like don't necessarily just believe in things because it's the norm around you. Like, it's just been passed down that this is a belief that we have to, you know, think about and think is real. If it's not actually helping you in your life and if it's detrimenting you, then that's when you actually need to question and think, why do I believe in this? Like, what is the benefit of this to me? I feel like that's the kind of epiphany I've had, is like, I believed in it so strongly, but then it got to a point where it becomes detrimental though. And then I'm like, well, why am I choosing to believe in something or believe something that could affect my life so strongly when the effect it's having will always be negative? Like, then you have to make a choice and be like, actually, logically, this doesn't make much sense to me, and I choose to believe something else.
I think that's really interesting because, like, I've had to ask myself similar questions when I had a major fear of being seen with my relationship with like health and fitness, because I've spent like a long time, like over half my life, wanting to be someone that looked healthy and fit but didn't. So then I had a fear around being seen to be enjoying like sport, the gym, anything like that, because I didn't look the part. So I never shared any, like, if I shared any aspect of my likes that related to like fitness or sport, I would always back it up with like a self-deprecating joke, or like put it down a little bit so it didn't look like I wanted to be like into fitness and stuff, because I just didn't want to be seen as someone, because on the outside I didn't match up to someone who was into fitness. So like,
do you know what I think that is?
What is it?
I think it's the fear of being seen trying to get somewhere.
That's it.
Because I feel like that can be applied to so many different things. It's like, I don't necessarily think the fear is of being seen. I just kind of realized this in myself. It's the fear of not being at the place that you want to be at, but being seen trying to get there and not being quite there. And then that awkward phase of,
you could fail.
Yeah, and you're not there yet, and people know where you're trying to be, but it's that awkward interim moment of like, oh, but it's the same with content creation, I think. It's like when people start off, you've got 0 followers, you've got no platform, nobody cares about you. You're trying to be seen, but then it's so uncomfortable that whole point in time, because
you're not being seen.
Like, yeah, you're not being seen, but everyone kind of knows that that's like what you're aiming for, because you have all the people that are already fully fledged influencers and they've got their platforms and they're super engaged communities. You're not there yet, but you're trying to get there. And the only way you can try to do that is publicly show yourself trying. So it's such an uncomfortable like process when you do something like that publicly. And then in the same way, if, like you mentioned with the health and fitness, when you haven't reached your goal, but then the people around you know that you're working towards it, it just puts that extra pressure and like discomfort of, oh, it's like cringe factor, I think. I feel like you just feel really like uncomfortable and like you just don't feel the part, but you're trying to be the part.
Yeah. Did you have a lot of that when you were like starting to build up your social media then?
Do you know what? I feel like at the beginning, heavily, because I was surrounded by people I knew more that weren't doing it as well, and everyone kind of knew that. Well, to be honest, when I started, it was a very weird thing anyway, so it was that doubly like awkward thing of like, this is a weird thing people are doing, it's like very new and strange, like it wasn't that popular, but it was also one of those things where I was kind of one of the only people around me that were interested in doing it. And then it was kind of like, oh, so she's weird for trying to do that, but then also the fact that she's trying to do that is strange. So I feel like, yeah, that was a very awkward time, like starting, because you do get terrified of people you know seeing your stuff. And like, even when I was at work, oh my gosh, do you know what? When I was working in corporate, my fear of being seen was at the ultimate high. Like, I would get severe anxiety at the thought of someone coming across my page, people watching my videos, people just knowing I existed online. I was terrified of it. And I look back and I'm like,
Why?
was that?
Yeah.
Why was I so obsessed with like not being seen, or not being seen to like be doing stuff outside of work in general, or, you know, posting online or doing what I want to do? Because it was a hobby at that point.
It probably conflicted a lot with your own goals. Like, you probably had goals to grow, yet on the one hand, the other hand, you didn't actually want to be seen to be going after those goals.
Yeah, that's the thing. I feel like it was being seen to be trying. Like I didn't want to be seen at that level, but then you can't, especially in a world where you're trying to grow an audience, you can't skip
Yeah.
to the end, like, because you have to have that like organic growth where people are discovering you every day, and, you know, you're growing your audience and your community, and you don't really get to that end goal in an instant, and people are naturally going to find you as you're getting bigger, because that's the nature of the game. Like, you're going to pop up on a few pages, people are going to see your content shared, like, it's just natural. But I feel like when it's people you know in person that are maybe seeing another version of you that they don't get to witness normally, because I feel like I was very introverted at work, and my socials, I'm not like that. I'm just like fully myself, but I feel like I presented myself in a certain way at work, which maybe made it a bit worse for me, because then I was like, now they're seeing this other side of me, and I don't know how to like be like that with them in person, because I don't feel like comfortable with them yet. And I have that type of personality where I have to be really comfortable with you to like fully, like, you know, show you like my actual personality.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I remember
like
when
I
we
have a
first
wall.
met, I got these like glimpses into like you just being a little bit like dorky, and I loved it. Like, Farah would just like say something really random but like really funny. I'd be like, what was that? But yeah, it's true. I did the same thing. And you know, it's so interesting you're saying about like the fact that you presented yourself as like quite introverted at work, but then we're absolutely not like that on your socials. I think that also feeds into the fear around being seen, is because in your head you're like, well,
Like
I'm
I'm
not
getting
being
caught.
myself at work, or I've got this mask on. Like, not
Yeah.
a lot of us aren't doing this consciously. So if you do have a mask on, or if you're like changing your personality, it is subconscious most of the time, especially if you're from a marginalized background as well. But I started to like become more aware of the fact that I was like one person at work, one person on
So did
on
you do
YouTube.
the same thing? Were you
Yeah,
very
I was just scared
different?
of like people at work knowing like what my bedroom looked like, and what my finances were like, and like what my jokes and like how I actually was in real life. And my, you know what, in the last like year of corporate, maybe, well, I say year, last 3 years of corporate, where you would have just hated life if you were me, because I just had my socials brought up at like every single conversation I had with
My
people.
worst
It was
nightmare.
always brought up. Like when I was doing things online, and I was in like little catch up calls, my colleagues would bring them up before I even realized things had gone out, you know, on like socials and stuff. They'd tell me that they'd seen like a brand deal I'd done, which is really sweet, but for me it was a constant reminder that I'm like, okay, so you know that I'm trying to do this thing outside of work, and we're talking about it right now. Okay, cool. Yeah. So that was hard.
Gosh. Yeah, I can only imagine, because I remember the point when I think the first person in my office like discovered my page. I think they were naturally just trying to follow me on Instagram, because like everyone had each other's like personal socials. But I don't think they really realized like what they would end up seeing. And then I was like, you know, you can't escape those situations as well. It makes it even worse. You can't just switch off your phone, like they're there in front of you.
Just off. I'm done.
Connection error. Like it was a different world. You were in the office 24/7. This is like pre-COVID I'm talking about as well.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So this was at the moment in time where I was like in the office with these people all day long, every single day, and just the constant anxiety and fear of it being brought up, of questions about it, of, because I had a really sweet manager that was like really, she was so supportive of it, but I was so insecure. I couldn't take it as support at the time. I was like so like just anxious about them knowing, and didn't really feel comfortable in myself that I was like, I guess it was the fear of being seen, like
Mm-hmm.
fear of them knowing that I'm trying to do this. But it was weird because at the time, like I felt in myself that I was a very, very small creator, which I was. I think I was on like 20K at the time when they discovered me, like when they found my pages. And I was like, this is so embarrassing. I just look like this like wannabe. And I don't know, I was so like stupidly insecure about it. But they were all, especially this manager, she was like, wow, you're doing so well, like imagine like this time next year you're gonna be on like 100K. And like she was so like encouraging about it, but I couldn't get past my fear. And
Yeah.
I find it like so sad in a way now looking back, because I could have so embraced that, and I could have so, you know, like talked to them more about it, or just been like welcome the conversations a bit more, or I could have been so different about those conversations. And I look back and I think, hopefully now, if I was ever in that situation, I would deal with it so differently. Just the idea of like trying to do something new. And I think I've tried to do that recently. So, you know, with like, I started trying to build like my own modest wear brand.
No,
I've used
no,
that
you are
as my,
building your own modest wear brand.
I am building it. But I have used this whole like new thing as just like, this is one of the first things I've ever come out and been like, I'm trying this
Mm-hmm.
thing and I don't know where it's going. I don't have the end result
Mm-hmm.
with me, but I've been very like public in talking about it openly, about like I'm in the process, and yeah, we're just gonna see where it goes. And I've never done that before, and I feel like that is me trying to like get over that fear of being seen to be trying something, because I could have easily done what I have always done and like kept it stum, like not said a word, just like worked on it in the background, and then, you know, come out in a year's time and been like, here's my new brand. But I just thought,
Why not?
why do I need to do that? Yeah, why do I need to like be all hush hush and hide something? Especially, I guess for a brand, it's different because I'm making it for my followers and I'm making it for other people to like benefit from. So it doesn't make sense to me in that scenario where I would like hide it, because I want people to be involved. Like I want you to tell me like, what clothes do you like what do you want to see and stuff like that. So I feel like it's been so nice to be able to have those conversations with my followers and actually talk openly about it. And like, you know, I'm vlogging the whole process, and I want it to be this thing where like I grow with it,
Yeah.
but like publicly. But I've never done that before, so it is again quite scary to do. But I don't want to be that girl that like shies away from people finding out or people seeing her try to do new things. Like I feel like that's kind of a sad way to live, which is, yeah, something I'm avoiding. I think as I'm getting older, maybe it's just me like getting older and realizing like things aren't that serious.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. It's like getting older and realizing like nothing is that like deep as
No,
well.
it's not
Like
a big
nothing
deal.
actually matters. Like even if you want to start something, you share it with the entire world and you change your mind, you don't want to do it anymore. Nothing
Or it
nothing
doesn't work
happens. You
out.
just end up
Yeah.
not having to do that thing. Or if you start something, share it with the world and fail miserably at it, nothing happens. You just
You
like
learn a
you get to
lesson
learn something and then you move
and
on.
you move on. Yeah,
So it's
exactly.
actually really nice, and I've loved the fact that you're sharing the journey as well, because I've also noticed like that as a difference in like the way you approach things on your socials. And like in terms of building a brand, you have a lot more to lose by not doing that
Yeah.
than just actually sharing with the world, and actually taking what you're doing with your modest wear brand and applying it to like any other goal you want to achieve in life. If you share it with like your close circle, your trusted like friends, your loved ones, in the same way that your followers are like contributing to you building this brand and like also just helping you build a great brand for them, if you share your goals and your achievements and just the general journey of getting things you want with the people around you, you're able to actually like contribute and like feed into your goals. You can have back and forth. You avoid that milestone mentality, and then when you get to your end goal, it's a shared experience. You've enjoyed the process getting there. You can share with your friends and family, and it's not just like you in a corner waiting to kind of surprise everyone with this thing
Yeah.
you've done. You know, it's like you can apply that mindset to anything in life, whether it's building a brand or running your first 5K or starting to post on social media. But do you think there's any like because I'm trying to think while you were speaking, what have I actually actively done to go from someone, like when I started my socials, I avoided the anxiety of people finding out by blocking everyone I knew.
Simple but
Simple.
effective.
But also saying that I had the privilege of starting everything during COVID, and I didn't have to deal with like people in real life because I didn't do all of this pre-COVID. But still after that, I didn't blow up and then tell everyone. I just decided I had enough of living
Hiding.
a double life, and and then just told people about it and like unblocked everyone. But I'm trying to think like what actually, apart from just genuinely caring less, what helps you like climb cringe mountain? What helps you deal with the fear of being seen trying? Because I think that feeling doesn't really go away, like that fear, because I still have it every day. Like when I'm still posting on TikTok, posting on Instagram, and always thinking I need to, like be okay with exposing myself a bit more. And there's also, by the way, tangent, a line between exposing yourself and also just revealing all the details of your life, thinking that that's you like allowing yourself to be seen.
Yeah, it's so different. Yeah, I feel like, yeah, the difference between just being seen in general versus like, yeah,
being seen,
unraveling your whole life online,
yeah.
which happens a lot these days. Yeah, I wouldn't advocate for that at all.
No, if you're thinking about this in the lens of content creation, there's definitely a difference. But yeah, what do you have any like tips or like things that you did? Because I think apart from, honestly, and one of my colleagues actually told me this when I was talking to him about my fear of being seen trying as a content creator while at work. He was like, well, when people bring it up, just own it. If you own it, then other people don't own it by default. If other people don't own it, they can't say or do anything to you to take away from the fact that this is your thing and you're proud of it. And it's the moment you don't own it, and it's the moment that you like deny things, self-deprecate, which I did a lot, give ownership to other people, that's when they have power to make you feel bad about that thing that you're doing.
That's exactly what happened to me. I wish someone told me that earlier on, because I think I just figured that out for myself, to like lean into it instead of trying to deny it or trying to like avoid the whole, like, the situation's happened now, everyone knows, and no matter how much you try and avoid it or deflect, or like, it's still a situation. So the best thing to do is to lean into it. And I think because I didn't do that, I feel like my lessons are like, all my advice would be is like learn from my mistakes, because I feel like I didn't deal with it in the best way. I was so, like I said, insecure about it, that I made it so much more of a big deal than it actually was. Like, it didn't need to be made into this like awkward thing. It didn't have to be awkward. It could have been very much like, yeah, that's my page, you found it, like, I do this, and it would have been left at that. But I feel like because I was so uncomfortable in it, I feel like people also, like, especially people my age, so for example, when I first started my grad job and people in my peer group found out about it, they, because of my reaction, I got teased more.
Yeah.
And I was like, I did that to myself, because if I just lent into it and owned it, like you were saying, nobody would have even thought to do that, because they would have been like, fair.
Yeah.
But I was the one rejecting it, and I was the one like running away and being awkward and didn't want to talk about it and denying that it was even me.
What? You did not do that. Oh my god, that's the worst tactic in the world.
I swear, once, so I was at the, like, they do those academies when you first do your grad job.
Oh, yeah.
Someone tried to get my video up on the big screen in the middle of one of our, like, they went to these levels.
I would die.
It was so, and I didn't even know this kid. I was like, who are you and why are you doing this? Like, it didn't make any sense. But I feel like people sensed my fear and my discomfort, and they like
poked at it.
Yeah, it was like deliberate. But I was like, if I had just been more sure in myself and confident in myself and just like own that whole thing, people wouldn't have tried to do that.
Yeah.
And even if they did, I could have just sat there and like, but I was so agitated by it, and I was so like, I I was really just, yeah, I was just rejecting the whole idea of like people knowing about it. And I didn't know how to respond or take it.
Yeah.
And I think it was the whole thing of me, like, I was quite shy and reserved with these people. So I didn't really want, like, I wasn't ready to, just be like super outgoing with you in real life. So I didn't really want to bring up that part of me online and like
Yeah.
have it displayed. So it was just weird because then I feel like I struggled a lot with that in terms of like, well, then why am I so different in real life? Like, why can't I just like open up to people instantly and like be that way? So then I wouldn't feel awkward about it when they saw it online because it'd match. It was like, it would be the same thing, but I was so much more myself and just like outspoken, outgoing, and yeah, I was just so much more open online compared to like I was very reserved in real life. And I guess I still am, but I think I've just learned that it's just my personality. It's just the way I am. Like, I'm not that type of person that instantly connects with people, or well, sometimes I do, but it takes a lot for me to like open up or, like bring a bit more of my personality out with people, and I think that's fine. But I feel like you can still be someone that's more reserved but like quietly confident. Like, you can still be secure in yourself and the things that you're doing. And so if you are that type of person that is quite introverted when they first meet people, is quite, maybe like it takes you a bit of warming up to someone to show that more outgoing side of you, that's not a bad thing. But what is a bit negative is having that insecurity. Like, that's the thing you need to chip away at, and that's probably something that I've done over the years, because I haven't changed my personality. I still behave the same way. Like, I'm still a bit more reserved and shy towards people, like when I first meet them. But I think if that situation happened now, I probably would have dealt with it way differently. But then I say that, but that's probably because my platforms are bigger now and I don't care. Like,
That gives you more confidence as well, like over
so
time.
I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
So
But that's what I
it's
mean.
hard.
Like you probably have that feeling of ownership now because you have like the metrics, your actual physical metrics
It's
from your accounts to
backed
back
by
it up.
something. Yeah.
But like before you have that, and I have to have that because I don't have those metrics yet. So I always just consider myself like in my head, I am a content creator. I am doing I make videos on XYZ. And I think you mentioned like quiet confidence. I think it takes building that to get over the fear of being seen, because you're so right. When people sense a vulnerability or an insecurity, whether it's the fear of being seen or not, like any insecurity, people will poke at it. And to be confident about something, to own something, doesn't mean that you have to be the loudest person in the room about it, and you don't have to like scream that you're a content creator or an influencer from like the biggest rooftop in whatever city you live in. It's just a case of making yourself so sure about what it is that you do that no one else would even have the audacity to like poke at you. And it's like removing the, again, it comes back to power. It's like not giving that power to other people. And the way I do that now is definitely just like, even if I have my insecurities about being a creator, which I do, I have plenty of insecurities. It's a great trait of mine, but I will never actually, like, I own the fact that I don't. And that's when I'm meeting new people, I declare my position. I state what I do. I state what I'm good at, even if I have my own doubts about that myself. Like, no one needs to know about that. And sometimes I've realized, like, in previous situations, like for example when your colleagues were teasing you, or like you're like pretending that it's not you on your platforms, like the things that I used to do were like, and still do sometimes, is self-deprecating jokes and like putting myself down in front of other people, which is my way of making other people okay with the fact that I'm doing something different to them, or I'm doing something that is kind of better than what they're doing after work. Or on the weekends, you know, like the quality of hobbies are slightly different. And I don't want that to come off as like egotistical or like pompous or anything. It's just like, that is fact, and that's what causes people to kind of poke at what you do sometimes, and causes people to make you feel bad about trying to do something. Like, it's all about that. It's all about the fact that you're like stepping outside of the status quo. You're doing something that's not so normal. And you know, like we keep bringing this back down to content creation because that's what we both did, and like that's where most of our experiences with like being seen come down to. But before COVID, like I had colleagues who I had this one colleague who had like just a really eclectic set of hobbies, and like she did like a specific dance class, she played board games, she was just very unique in character and personality, hobbies, everything. And she there's the same guy who told me like, just own your social media, don't let anyone else have power over it. He used her as a comparison. He was like, look, she owns the fact that she has a different set of hobbies, and she doesn't let other people dictate to her what she should and shouldn't feel bad about. So this kind of mentality of retaining the power over your life, your choices, expands much further than I think content creation and social media. And like I used it last year to run my half marathon because I was extremely insecure about the fact that I was not a good runner, but I just started owning the fact that I'm doing this half marathon, I'm training for it, which means I'm a runner. And like I just owned it, and now I am. Now I've run it, so now I'm like, okay, I don't need to like pretend to own it anymore. But it's that step, I think, that's really important to take, despite not having the backing or the proof. It's like you'll get the proof if you just bridge that gap by owning it.
Yeah, I like that point that you said there as well about him comparing it to someone else that has owned it, because I think that's also something that's helped me a lot along the way, is just being exposed to more people that are different and have different interests, do different things, and knowing that that's okay and they know it's okay as well. I feel like maybe in the early stages of my career, when I was in that bubble of feeling super awkward and insecure, I was already the odd one out, and I was already among so many people that were literally carbon copies of each other. Like my team were just so similar to each other, had all the same interests. Like they were all like one type of person and I was another already. Like this is aside from social media. So I think adding that extra like difference that I had, I feel like that's probably what my insecurity stemmed from, is them knowing about it and then me having that bigger divide between like me not fitting in the group again. So I feel like as I kind of progressed throughout my career and I met different people, and even when I moved teams later on, there was a point, actually, this was very, very close to when I ended up leaving anyway, so this is more recent. I was on this team, and one of the guys on my team, he did like, I don't know how to describe it, but he was in theatre shows, I think he said, or his hobby was basically choreographing dances for a theatre show, or he did this like very regular theatrical hobby basically. And he was so passionate about it, and he was very like strict on, okay, I can't work past this time on these days at work because I have these practices in the evenings. And I just remember like working with people like that, and there were like similar people to him that had their other hobbies going on, and that's quite different. Like I'd never really spoken to someone at work that was so had such a different hobby. Like people went to the gym, or people did sport, or people did generic stuff, but I always felt like the odd one out for having my hobby because everyone else seemed to do normal stuff. So like when I ended up working with people like him who were so like passionate about what they did outside of work and were so open to talking about it and didn't see it as abnormal, didn't see themselves as the odd one out, it kind of empowered me to do the same, because I was like, well, why shouldn't I like talk about what I do, or why should I feel awkward just because I'm not doing what everyone else is doing? So I think, yeah, just working or even just being surrounded by more people like that, even if your physical circle or your work environment isn't like that, looking for people online that maybe talk about those things or have similar interests to you, I feel like it really does help, just knowing that there's people out there that are similar to you and that maybe they've gone through similar things, which is why I like conversations like this, and I like talking about that side of things as an influencer, because I think it's important for people to know that people don't just get to the top and like they were always just so super confident and person that like achieve loads of things like overnight, and it never happened like that for anyone. But obviously nobody talks about that stuff. Nobody knows about, you know, the awkward conversations you had at work while you were working before you made it your full-time job. Nobody knows about you feeling so like insecure and the odd one out. Nobody knows about that stuff until you talk about it. So yeah, I feel like if you can in some way just broaden your circle of people. Like if you do find yourself in a friendship group where everyone has the same interests, like broaden your friendship circle. It doesn't mean ditch those people. It just means like make more effort to make friends with people that are similar minded to you, that have those interests. Because I think that's what helped me as well, is like meeting people like you, meeting people on social media that actually like the stuff I did. And you know, like everyone in my immediate circle physically or like just by location, okay, they don't like that stuff. It doesn't mean I can't be friends with them, but it also doesn't mean that I can't be friends with people that have my interests too. And then that also helps build your confidence, because then you have that little support network of people that like the same things as you do, and they make it seem more normal as well the more time you like spend talking to them about it. So I feel like that probably helped me a lot more, because I only really made my social media friends good few years, actually, like maybe in the middle of COVID. So when I started making my social media friends, I then actually probably, that was the point I started getting more confident, I think. I'm just like putting the dots together in my head. I think that was when it was, because then I started being like, okay, I'm not the only one. And there's other people that are starting from, like, they weren't people that had loads of followers themselves or, you know, but they were still very passionate about what they did. And they were very like outspoken about it. And, you know, like were encouraging each other to like grow and, you know, get better with what they were doing. So you felt like you were growing with other people as opposed to just looking at others for inspiration, like, you know, hoping to attain someone else's like goal that they'd already achieved, which is what it was a lot like when you start, because you just see all these big numbers and you see all these people that are so further ahead than you. So having your own community, I think, really helps in that situation.
Yeah, that's so true. I think that's a really good life hack. If you have a fear of being seen trying, just put yourself in a circle of people who
Also
are already
trying.
doing the things that you're trying to do, and then you'll have a fear of being seen not to be trying.
Yeah, you actually then get motivated and you're like, actually, I can't give up. Like,
Yeah.
we're all in this together now. Let's go. Like, you feel a total different way. And I feel like that's probably what propelled me more, because I was actually so much more like secure in myself that, okay, no, this isn't weird. Like, this is a cool thing I'm doing. And there's loads of other people doing this cool thing too. And you almost like don't want to like give up on it, because then you feel like this becomes a waste then, rather than like, oh, this thing that you should hide and maybe you shouldn't even be doing it in the first place. You totally get rid of that mindset.
Yeah. So it's like changing what the status quo is around you and like actually making it something that you want to, I don't know, either stick with or build a community around. I think that's so important. And I think that you can easily link that back down to like nazar as well. Like if you have a community around you of people who are like aware, appreciative, and like are probably going after similar goals, that sense of like, I can't share these things with those people kind of goes away a little bit.
Yeah, it kind of defeats the idea of nazar, because I feel like, yeah, you will hold yourself back if you stay. I forgot even we were talking about that, because I think that is the complete opposite, isn't it? It's like, if you did stick in your own little bubble, say I did like not reach out to the community or like try and make friends with people, I probably might have stopped, because I would have felt still very insecure, still like I was the only one doing it, and not very motivated to continue, because I had that awkwardness. That then what would I have said? Oh, it was nazar because people started finding out? No, it was my own insecurity.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's so true.
Yeah. So it really is your own mindset towards things that shifts your own reality.
I completely agree. And I think we've been hammering that from the start. And you know what? I want to give us a little pat on the back for coming full circle on an episode.
I know. Actually, yeah, I love that you did that, because I was like, my train of thought is just like that way.
So we both do it though. We both do it on every single episode. I don't know if any listeners have caught on to the fact that me and Farah just like start at A and end up at zebra. Like zebra. Wait, that's correct. We start at A and end up at not Z at all.
No, we don't. No, we end up at -A.
At -A. So I'm really proud of that. But I really hope that this episode was useful. I think it's so refreshing to talk about things like this, because I think just the act of like sharing that being seen trying is annoying, cringy, awkward, difficult, and just understanding that you're not the only one feeling like that is just like, it's like a weight off your chest a lot. And I think not only making friends with like Farah and other creators, but like other people online talking about this actual trend of being seen trying, like that has been so refreshing to even consume as a content
agreed.
consumer.
Yeah.
But yeah, we hope it was useful. And if you've been listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, would love a rating and a review. And don't forget to follow us on there as well. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe, like, leave a comment. Let us know if there's any goals that you actually have that you're not going for because you're too scared to be seen trying to go for them, because we can give you a little pep talk. I'm punching my hand here. But that is us for this week. We will catch you next week. Bye.
Bye.
People around you, you have a genuinely when that first happened, I thought it was like a fart.
Deb, would I ever?
That's why I was shocked. That's why I was like, oh.